Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Build Insights video. Today we'll be taking a look at the build-out for the Baths of Alexander Severus in Rome. This 3rd century complex would have replaced the original Baths of Nero built in the 1st century on the same site, and it's also the 11th subsection of Phase 3 in my years-long effort to recreate all of ancient Rome circa mid-4th century CE. This subsection consists of about 4,800 bricks, bringing the running total for the entire SPQR diorama to around 283,000. It also connects directly to areas we've seen in previous videos, like the Stadium of Domitian, as well as the Pantheon. A quick shout out to all my members over on Patreon who help to support my work. These projects take many months to realize, and patrons get to see every step along the way, like the digital design insights for the Baths of Alexander Severus, which were shared all the way back in February 2025. It's also worth mentioning, I don't do ad reads or any sponsored content despite near constant requests. If you find my work to be valuable and you'd like to return some of that value by becoming a member on Patreon, you'll find a link in the description. The Baths of Alexander Severus in Rome were built in 226 CE and once occupied a large area from what is now Piazza Navona to Piazza della Rotonda in front of the Pantheon. By the time of the early 3rd century, the typical layout of imperial thermae were already well established. We've seen the 2nd century Baths of Trajan on the Esquiline Hill, and though I've yet to reconstruct the Baths of Caracalla, both these complexes informed the smaller, though still relatively large, Baths of Alexander Severus in the Campus Martius. These vast complexes were designed not just for public bathing, but for a wide variety of activities, including exercise, walking, reading and studying, as well as general body care. The axial symmetry of the rectangular building plan certainly lends itself well to the shapes of plastic bricks, but the real solution to successfully reconstructing these enormous buildings is to start by designing the interior layout. Here you can see the north-facing natatio, or large swimming pool, which was flanked by palestra on either side. These cold baths and open-air exercise grounds were placed along the entrance to the baths on the north side of the building, leaving the heated pools and steam rooms to be placed along the southern side, where they could take full advantage of solar exposure throughout the day. The Baths of Alexander Severus are known to us less by any visible remains on the site, and more from the Spolia, or various architectural fragments, which were repurposed in other projects throughout Italy in the centuries since the baths fell into disuse. Here in the Frigidarium at the center of the complex, a large black-red Egyptian granite basin eventually made its way to Piazza della Costituente, where it has been featured in Fontana del Senato since the celebration of the 40th anniversary of the Italian Constitution. We can also see a pair of gray granite labbra, or basins, on either end of the Frigidarium. One of these labbra has made its way to Il Giardino di Boboli a Firenze, where you can see it today alongside an Egyptian obelisk. It's also clear that 2 Egyptian pink granite columns were spoliated from the Baths of Alexander Severus in the 17th century. Pope Alexander VII had these columns moved to replace 2 of the 3 damaged ones along the east side of the Pantheon portico. And finally, one of the ornate marble capitals featuring a victorious athlete was taken from the baths and used as the pedestal for the Pina Vaticana, which itself was originally taken from the sanctuary of Isis and Serapis elsewhere in the Campus Martius. You'll find the Pina Vaticana at Musei Vaticani and in my 2020 reconstruction of Vatican City, and you can also get a glimpse of it in my previous video of the original site. I also designed this kit of the Vatican Pinecone, which may or may not be available on my website depending on when you're watching this video. The Baths of Alexander Severus in Rome were opened to the public in 226 CE and were likely free to all Roman citizens, like most imperial thermae throughout the city. Alexander Severus, also known as Marcus Aurelius Severus Alexander, was the final emperor of the Severan dynasty from 222 until 235. He was also the second youngest emperor in Roman history, having ascended to the throne at the age of just 13. Alexander Severus was known for his religious tolerance and for making peace with German tribes along the empire's northern border, much to the dismay of the military brass. This eventually led to his assassination, which is widely viewed as the precipitous event leading to the crisis of the 3rd century. But before Alexander Severus built the baths bearing his name, we're left to wonder what stood previously on this large site in the Campus Martius. The general consensus is that the site was once home to the Baths of Nero, which, in light of Nero's Damnatio Memoriae, were slated for eventual redevelopment. But this is far from certain, and the debate is still ongoing over the identification of the two thermae. Were the Baths of Nero and of Alexander Severus the same original structure? Were Alexander Severus's baths added to Nero's, or rather a complete redevelopment? Or were the two merely close to each other, but separate structures altogether? We may never know for certain, but that's what makes reconstructing the ancient world from an incomplete picture so fascinating. From the exterior, the telltale architectural signs of ancient Roman thermae were the pitched and gabled rooftops which sprawled over much of the complexes. These gables spanned what were once vast interior halls decorated with the finest marble sourced from throughout the Mediterranean world. Typically, the largest of these halls were the caldarium and the frigidarium, with the former placed along the southern face of the complex for greater heating efficiency from solar exposure. La frase io ho caldo in Italiano uses the same Latin root as caldarium, the name for the heated baths in Roman thermae. Similarly, in English, frigid describes something very cold, and the word is derived from the same Latin root as frigidarium, the name for the cold baths in Roman thermae. Aside from semantics, the architectural legacy of Roman thermae is also clearly visible in our modern world. The frigidaria at the center of most large Roman baths have directly inspired countless public infrastructure projects, including New York City's original Penn Station and the Great Hall at the Met, as well as the Senate of Canada building in Ottawa. For my own hometown, we have the Grand Hall of Union Station in Chicago, as well as the historic examples of practically every building designed for the White City of the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition. You can also get a glimpse at the grandeur of these original ancient halls at Santa Maria degli Angeli a Roma, where the frigidarium of the Baths of Diocletian were restored to accommodate a modern church. The project was designed in the 16th century by none other than Michelangelo himself. The first of the finishing touches to the Baths of Alexander Severus were several pairs of statues atop the columns surrounding the natatio. Natationes were typically shallow, unheated pools placed along the central axis of Roman baths, usually along the colder north side of the complexes. The three statues outside the main entrance may have depicted a few of the Severan emperors. Along the southern side of the baths, matching gardens were added on either side of the main building. Aesthetically, these gardens are consistent with the horti included next to the adjacent Baths of Agrippa, which we saw in a previous video. Both of these areas are connected in the physical diorama, uniting the two horti into one large L-shaped garden, which adds some vitality to the overall piece. I hope you enjoyed these insights into the Baths of Alexander Severus. If you'd like to see even more behind-the-scenes insights, you can check out the exclusive posts over on my Patreon. Aside from supporting my work, Patreon membership also gets you early access to all these insights videos. Stay tuned for the next video, where we'll be taking a look at several smaller complexes as we round out the Campus Martius of Phase 3. In the meantime, thanks for following along, and I'll see you in the next one.